안녕하십니까. 서울시 시민건강국장 박유미입니다. 일로 시선을 여기 보고 그냥 하면 되나요?
예, 지금 여기로 한 게 카메라 연결이 여기 있잖아요. 그래서 저 자연스럽게 카메라랑 이제 시선을 맞출 수 있어서 이제 위치를 저기서
그냥 하면 되죠.
We are going to start in 5 minutes. I will be out from this room, but I'll be watching it from the studio. So if you have anything, you can find the chat room underneath. So please remain the camera open and mic open as well. Thank you. See you later.
This is the Seoul Urban Food Policy Conference 2020. Welcome everyone. I am Bang Na-kyung, your MC today. Great to see you all. First of all, many around the world have paid great efforts to organize this event out of their busy schedule. I'd like to express my sincere appreciation to all domestic and international officials who are joining us online and offline. This conference is about sustainable food in the COVID-19 era. In this time of infectious disease, our concerns about food is increasing. So today, we'd like to take time to look at cases of sustainable food of each city and discuss the direction of the urban food policy for the future. And this conference is being broadcast live all over the world through Seoul City's YouTube channel. To begin with, I'd like to ask one request for all online participants. Due to the nature of the video conference, please make sure that your camera and network connection status one more time for seamless operation and pay special care to microphone control. And now I'd like to introduce you the participants of the conference. So let's meet up academic leaders who join us via the video. From Australia, we are having Dr. Kia Smith, Queensland University of Australia. Thank you. And now, let's move to the United States. Professor Jang-woo Kim, University of Idaho, who is also joining us. Thank you very much for your participation. And from Japan, Professor Motoki Akes of Kyoto University is attending. Thank you. And now, the signatory cities of Milan Urban Food Pact, I will introduce the officials. First, from Milan, Italy, Mr. Filippo Gavazzani, Director of the Secretariat of the Milan Urban Food Pact, is here. Thank you. And now, let's move to Bandung City of Indonesia. Head of Mr. Gingin Jinanjaru, Head of Food and Agriculture Department, is here with us. Very happy to see you all online. And we have traveled to Indonesia to see our special lecturers. And now let's move to the studio. And today I will present you Professor Cheol-gyu Kim, Professor at Korea University. He will serve as moderator of today's conference. Thank you for your participation. And Ms. Chung-soon Kil, Chairperson of Seoul Food Policy Council of Citizens Committee. And Mr. Kim Do-gil, Chairman of the Gyeonggi-do Food Policy Council, is also here with us. Last but not least, Seoul City Metropolitan Government Health Promotion Division Director General Yumi Park is here too. We never miss this part whenever we have important events. That is the greetings of the Director General Yumi Park. So, her welcoming speech will be the official beginning of today's conference. Please join me to welcome her with big hand. Are you ready? So please welcome her with a big hand. Greetings. I am Yumi Park, Director General of Seoul Metropolitan Government Health Division. For this 2020 Seoul Urban Food Policy Conference, so many people, including members of Seoul Food Policy Council of Citizens, thank you for your hard work. Due to COVID-19, this conference is now being held online. Today, we have a lot of international speakers who join us online. Dr. Kia Smith, University of Queensland, Australia, and Professor Jang-woo Kim, University of Idaho, the United States, and Professor Motoki Akes, Kyoto University of Japan, and Mr. Filippo Gavazzani of the Secretariat of Milan Urban Food Policy Pact, and Mr. Kingin Jinanjaru, head of Food and Agriculture Department, thank you for your participation. At the same time, my special thanks go to Professor Cheolgyu Kim of Korea University and Chung Sung-gil, chairperson of Seoul Food Policy Council of Citizens, and Mr. Deok-il Kim, chairperson of Gyeonggi-do Province Food Policy Council. This non-face-to-face online conference is a great platform to exchange opinions on sustainable food in the COVID-19 era with the experts of major international cities and think about urban food issues and future direction extensively. The whole world, as we speak, is facing an unprecedented crisis of novel coronavirus infection. However, after the outbreak of the virus, GHG gas emission has reduced dramatically, which is called COVID-19 paradox. It clearly shows how quick the nature can recover if human beings stop their activities and what magnitude human beings have an effect on the nature. In the COVID-19 era, the food system should move towards a healthier and more sustainable direction. Therefore, Seoul established Food Policy Council of Citizens to collect civic opinions and prepare the system of Seoul Food Strategy 2030. Once again, thank you for your interest and participation in this event. As the world is navigating through a great difficulty, I hope this Seoul Urban Food Policy Conference will be a valuable chance to explore ways to develop sustainable foods. Once again, I sincerely wish you the very best. Thank you very much. Thank you for your welcoming speech. So we'd like to begin the main event of the conference right away. Before starting the main event, I'd like to give the floor to conference moderator, Professor Kim Cheolgyu of Korea University. Hello everyone, I am Kim Cheolgyu at Korea University. I am very honored to be a moderator of Seoul Urban Food Policy Conference. I am very pleased and honored to have this chance. Many people are joining us from many different cities and around the world. Before having some presentation, I'd like to show you one quick video prepared by Seoul Metropolitan government. It is about how we can supply the safe and quality food for the citizens. This video shows you what kind of activities Seoul City is making.
As COVID-19 pandemic spread, challenging face-to-face food support for the underprivileged in Seoul, the city government discusses emergency operation plans in order to ensure food support for the underprivileged. Top priority goes to children, the elderly, and pregnant. They work to find ways to guarantee food accessibility in the no-contact era. Environment-friendly food for the pregnant. Due to COVID-19, consumption of environment-friendly food dropped. Farmers have a hard time finding where and how to sell their produce. To support the pregnant and farmers, the government works to launch a program to package produce and deliver it directly to the pregnant. Nutritional care programs for underprivileged pregnant women and children. Nutrition Plus program. The government continues to run a health promotion program for pregnant women and children. It is called Nutrition Plus program. It supports pregnant women and children who have nutrition risk factor and who are from families making less than 80% of median income. To solve the nutritional problems, the city works with the Korean government to provide quality food packages and customized education and counseling concerning nutrition and diet. To conform to the non-contact policies, they also offer online education. A website was built to provide nutrition education in the era of COVID-19. People can get information online and video chat with nutritional consultants.
비대면 상황에 맞춰서 온라인상으로 교육을 실시하고 있고요. 블로그 운영, 퀴즈, 선물 증정 등 다양한 방식으로 영양 결핍이 해소될 수 있도록 지속적으로 교육을 유지하고 있습니다.
Nutrition management program targeting underprivileged children. Fruits for kids. Children from low-income families are found to eat less fruit and more processed food. they are much less likely to have enough vitamins and minerals from their diet. To battle with the disparity in child health, the city government launched a program for kids. It provides fruits to low-income children, hoping to build a healthy way of eating. It also offers educational programs to teach children benefits of eating healthy.
과일을 일주일에 2번 이렇게 박스로 제공을 받거든요. 그런데 요즘 코로나 사태 때문에 센터에서 식사를 못해요. 그래서 도시락을 만들어 주면서 과일을 포장해서 같이 집에 가서 먹도록 하죠. 그래서 넉넉하게 먹고 있어요.
Fruit and vegetable packages are provided to children to supplement vitamins and minerals that they might not get from regular meals. On top of that, nutritionists meet with the children to talk about healthy eating and diet. So the children are informed of the importance of sustainable food. Voucher program for free school meals. Schools closed due to COVID-19. Students can no longer get hot lunch at school. The city and the Office of Education work together to deliver ingredients for school meals to the students' families staying at home. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic and corresponding online classes, students spend more time at home. Feeding them at home increases family spending on foods. Delivering produce for them helps the families a great deal. Meal provision for low-income elderly. The elderly population is at the highest risk for COVID-19. To avoid face-to-face interactions at community meal provision, boxed meals are delivered to minimize risks of contact. This program offers ready-made boxed meals. The menu changes every day.
코로나로 인해서 어르신들 비말 감염 때문에 대체식을 좀 무료급식 어르신들에게 나가고 있습니다. 대체식 전달할 때 정서적으로도 많이 외로우시잖아요. 그래서 안부 편지와 또 마스크 이런 것들도 함께 드리고 있습니다.
Young adults with developmental disabilities get vocational training and run a co-op and a cafe selling beverages. Seniors help fellow seniors. Senior volunteers make meals and deliver food to fellow seniors with mobility problems and who live alone. Seoul, Seoul works with City of Jeonju to help provide its residents with environment-friendly produce grown in Jeonju. That way, farmers in Jeonju can secure their market and sell their produce. At the same time, residents of Seoul get quality food directly from producers. Facing the challenges surrounding COVID-19, Seoul Citizens Committee on Food had a series of discussion sessions focusing on how to battle with the food crisis in the city. As a first step towards the solution, they announced the Seoul Food Strategy 2030.
서울시는 임산부 영유아 학생 취약계층 등 다양한 계층에게 맞춤형 먹거리 제공으로 코로나19 위기 상황에도 먹거리의 양적, 질적 보장 지원을 통해 시민에게 안전하고 건강한 먹거리 보장을 위해 노력하고 있습니다. 서울시는 밀라노 도시 먹거리 정책 협약 도시로서 그 역할을 다할 것입니다.
The city is working to establish solid plans concerning food systems for disasters and crisis such as COVID-19. Policies for Seoul Food Strategy 2030 will pave the way for a solution.
Can you please give us give big round of applause? In fact, the COVID-19 pandemic has been something that we haven't been expected at all. And against this difficulty that the Seoul City government and the Food Policy Committee and the related public officers and also the Seoul citizens and the NGOs and all the related parties are working together very hard to combat the consequences of the pandemic. And this has been an important guideline for us to move ahead. So Against this backdrop, I believe this kind of conference is a good indication to show the world, and also at the same time we're learning each other from the world. Before we begin our presentations, I'd like to briefly mention how this conference has been formed. As a moderator and as a person who has been involved in this project for a long time, I'd like to introduce the backdrop against this conference. Well, initially we thought about if this would be appropriate to hold a conference because of this COVID-19, but the Seoul public officers have had a strong, firm will to hold this conference. We wanted to invite 2 or 3 speakers from foreign countries. However, we realized that there is a strong interest among the speakers. So also we kindly asked other countries, including Bandung, the city Bandung. So initially we planned something smaller than this, but in the process of preparing for this conference, this committee, Seoul Food Committee, has been working really hard, and I'd like to thank for their effort. So now let's begin the presentation. We are holding this conference in Seoul, so I'd like to start by Seoul. I'd like to welcome the chairman of the Seoul Food Committee and also the member of the Agriculture and Food Subcommittee, Special Committee on Farming and Fishing Villages. Ms. Kil Chong-sun, please welcome her. Nice to meet you. I am the chairman of the Seoul Food Committee and also the member of the Agriculture and Food Subcommittee. We're standing here before you, it's because I am one of the members of the Agriculture and Food Subcommittee, but at the same time, I am a mother of 2, and I'm quite worried and feel responsible for the future. So I've thought about the role that I can do to make a better future for me and for my kids and for the world. As a member of the Seoul Food Committee, I have prepared for this presentation, but at the same time, I've delved into the things that we can do for the future generations. And in this process, I thought food is very important, so I'd like to share with you the policies, what kind of policies that we're working on to make that goal happen. So the title of my presentation is In the COVID-19 Era, Dream of a Sustainable City by Transforming the Food System. So that's my title. Then we have to talk about what is the sustainable food policy. As you can see from this presentation, you see this very complicated diagram. There is a cycle of production and consumption. So when you think about the food, that you often think about the food market link. However, when we think about sustainable market, that this gives you a different angle of what is food. So considering about sustainable food system means that we have produced, ironically, we have produced food unsustainable way. Therefore, that we have to now standing at a point how we're going to make sustainable food system possible. So food is not something that which is simply delivered to you at your door. When we think about food, we have to consider the production, which is the agriculture. So all the basic grounds for agriculture and how we're going to circulate this market. So this is containing the whole meaning of society. So we need to have this broad concept. In the past, we individually thought about the personal food security. However, since the Milan Food Policy Pact, that we have switched our tact into bigger one. So through food system, the Seoul city government has been working, and as you can see from the slide, Seoul it's home to 10% of Korean population. So Seoul is a well-known capital. However, in terms of agriculture production, we don't have secure ground. We have 10% of the Korean populations residing in Seoul. However, when it comes to the agriculture production, it takes only 0.02%. So in the process of consuming the food, it is quite amazing to see that about 60 million tons of foods are being consumed. And in this process of consuming food, about 1 million tons of food waste are generated. So when we think about the ability of agriculture in Seoul, it is quite difficult to secure urban resilience in terms of agriculture. So during the COVID-19 that we have been discussing about how we're going to deal with this food issues, and there are many researches about food-related studies due to the COVID-19. As you can see from these presentations that we are also working on agriculture and food policies. In the past, we had a little connection between the rural and urban. However, that we've been working more harder to connect rural and urban areas by also considering sustainability. So in this whole process that we are focusing on food, and in this process, we're involving citizens. As you can see from this slide, in March 2016, in terms of rural and urban perspectives, that we signed MOU with 9 metropolitan governments. So this shows that we'd like to form a consensus of the whole Korea. And in 2017, the Seoul city declared as to become a sustainable food city. And we also announced 2020 Seoul Master Plan for food. And we announced the world that we want to become a sustainable city. Also, we enacted the framework ordinance. And in this process that we launched Food Citizens Committee, which involves public and also the community. So through Food Citizens Committees that we have been implementing various activities, and Seoul has been actively involved in Milan Urban Food Policy Pact, and you can also refer to various data that the Seoul is working very hard. And also Seoul was rewarded reward from the Milan Pact. And Seoul is letting the world know that we're working really hard to achieve sustainability. As we watched from the video, that you are able to briefly see how Seoul is working. Of course, the market, the condition, the environment is not favorable. However, we wanted to make sure that the urban and the rural, the farmers and the consumers can cooperate together. And we are now switching from the big farmers to the small and medium-sized farmers. And also we are emphasizing the responsible consumers. In 2020, everybody has been shocked. Unimaginable pandemic has been sweeping us. And this is not something that we can stop. And with the spread of COVID-19 from March, that the main exporters of the grains have decreased their export volume. So recently, in the past, we used to think that food is kind of a product that you can buy if you have money. However, it has become a more important issue. This is more about food security. And due to the spread of COVID-19, people who are well off also have an opportunity to think about the people who are less advantaged. And this has shed a light on the danger of thinking only our country. And there have been reports about how to embrace other countries who are less privileged. So Korea is implementing various activities, and then one of them is food security issues related efforts. As you know, Korea, in terms of grain, we are not we don't have secure ground, so at the same time, we have to get support in terms of food support from the world. So we have realized that in terms of food, that we have to secure the food supply chain. And if this world food chain is disrupted, how we're going to provide food security? So that has been one of the focal points to consider from the national government. We have seen some policy changes in terms of Green New Deal, and this direction has all led us to think about how we're going to, all the Koreans will enjoy food security. I'm sure that you have watched on news or on newspaper, you have witnessed that the world has been all shocked because some people are flocking into supermarkets to buy foods, but Korea thankfully didn't do that, and I feel proud of that. However, the less privileged people experience lack of food, and especially children did enjoy the free lunch. Korea is one of the countries in the world that provides good quality lunch. However, the underprivileged students, as they couldn't go to school, they didn't enjoy the good quality lunch. So in us to build 2030 policies that we wanted to include that part as well. And this is the outlines of our 2030 policy. And this contains also the 2020 master plan. So it's kind of extension of 2020 master plan to better deal with the ever-changing environment. 2017, we had the Food Citizen Committee, so that we have been working closely with the committee as well. So based on that we have come up with the master plan for 2030. In drawing 2030 plan, we thought about what kind of approach that we're going to make for the climate change, and the agricultural productions are struggling due to big mega farmers. So by changing consumption patterns in Seoul, that we wanted to also support middle-sized and the small farmers, and how we're going to enhance qualitatively and quantitatively the food security against this, the current COVID-19, how we're going to deal with the issues. And these were four main areas that we have dealt with. So food is not only food anymore. This is something that we have to think about by considering environment and also responsibility for future generations. So food is closely linked with these major issues. And so in this process that we contemplated on what is good food, as I briefly showed you the video, health, assurance, and coexistence, and happy, and these 6 values are in the center of our discussions, and based on that, we have been working to build a sustainable production cycle. You see the bicycle. So this bicycle, the rider is the citizen who firmly understands the values of the food. So the citizens will be in the center of the cycle. And this train is based on the cooperation and then care ethics and social economy and budget. So these two wheels are basic ground. So the Seoul city government supports the citizens based on public grounds. These citizens will build based on that. There are many texts, so it's difficult to cover everything now. But for us to complete the vision system that our committee have created TFT and also the working groups, and we have continued our ongoing discussions. And this thing that you see on the screen is the most updated one. So you will see the complete version of 2030 vision. Before I close, I'd like to touch upon 2030 strategy. The one thing that we have contemplated the most was how we're going to change the life patterns of citizens. No matter how great the policies are, if citizens are not using the policies, then that will not going to work. They're not going to work. And our moderator, he wrote an article to the newspaper. And his article has been here cited. To change the lives of people, the Seoul government has to provide room for discussion. Despite such importance, what should be preceded is the participation of citizens and their willingness to change their lives in their home. So we'd like to nurture citizens who understand the key values of food. And in this process, we'd like to see active participation of Seoul citizens, but at the same time, we'd like to welcome the people around the world, and please continue to pay your attention and interest to Seoul citizens. Thank you.
Thank you for your wonderful presentation that was delivered by the Gil Chung-sun, the chairperson, and she largely talked about the Seoul's policy. And then now I'd like to travel to Australia. Dr. Kia Smith, are you connected? Are you ready? If you're ready, please start.
Okay.
The speaker is the Kia Smith Doctor of Queensland University.
Hello and good afternoon, and thank you to everyone for inviting me to participate today. In my presentation today, I seek to contribute a better understanding of how local food initiatives can help us progress towards sustainable, resilient and just food systems beyond the pandemic, drawing on the experiences of Brisbane and Australia more broadly. So the local initiatives that I'll talk about today, they're driven by food citizens and producer citizens located within social solidarity economies that contrast substantially with the more kind of mainstream, large-scale, export-oriented industrial food systems in Australia. So my paper is going to draw theoretically on the concept of resilience as transformation. And this is an emerging concept within the study of food system resilience. In my presentation, I will explore the impacts of COVID-19 on local or civic food networks in Southeast Queensland in Australia through an analysis of some survey data and semi-structured interviews with key actors as they became involved in a diverse pandemic food response. I'm going to focus on two key challenges and their solutions. So the first is when some urban growers were working to mitigate the decline in food charity donations by rapidly diverting food. And the second was the problem of food insecurity for international students and people on temporary work visas, which prompted a food box response. So I will ask, what do these experiences tell us about the transformative potential of local food networks beyond the crisis? In this paper, I will argue that local fair food networks provide lessons across three key components of food system transformation. First, our data highlights the ways in which food systems are vulnerable to disasters, including impacts relating to food security, climate change, and now a global pandemic. And second, I will argue that the case studies of local food initiatives allow us to see these as important innovation niches that articulate transformative visions as they enact participatory social learning processes and more inclusive food governance. And finally, I will bring this together by presenting a framework for food systems that are both resilient and just, and that are based on an understanding of resilience not just as bouncing back to the previous state, but also that transform or bounce forward into a more desirable social, economic, and environmental condition. So before I present my findings, I'll give a really brief summary of the COVID impacts in Australia. So as of October 2020, Australia has had just over 22,000 cases of COVID, with just over 900 deaths. And this is compared to South Korea, who had just over 25,000 confirmed cases, but only 457 deaths. So in Australia, we had travel bans and state-level lockdowns since the 23rd of March, but now our restrictions are easing. So in Queensland, where I am, there is no community transmission at the moment. Our schools have all reopened. And although the Queensland border it remains closed to those coming from New South Wales and Victoria hotspots where we had the worst outbreaks, but we also see our at-home gatherings being restricted, but businesses with a COVID-safe plan are operating more or less as usual, and we have an unemployment at 7.7%. So the impacts are obviously still ongoing. So across Australia, both the mainstream and local food systems have been heavily affected by COVID-19. We saw a shift towards shopping less frequently but buying more on each trip, so stocking up. And we also saw some initial panic buying, particularly of goods like flour, rice, pasta and canned goods. And this led to shortages in the supermarket system. This then led to a crisis in provisioning for emergency food providers and charities who rely on donations and excess supermarket stock to provide food to the homeless and vulnerable people. So within that mainstream food supply chain, we saw price hikes, particularly around fresh produce, which made it difficult for some to afford those fresh produce. We also saw initially supermarkets' online delivery services which were cancelled, but then later reinstated for vulnerable customers, and particularly for aged people. We also saw across Australia the closure or restriction of restaurant trade, and this led to reports of food wastage in the early stages of the pandemic as the wholesale food market struggled to find alternative outlets for fresh food. As all of this was happening, we started to see a broad-based community discourse that was emerging around the limits of a supermarket system and the equity concerns around food access and reliance on charities. So then if I turn to impacts on local or civic food networks in particular, we certainly saw poor returns for producers in these distribution channels. And this intensified when the pandemic disrupted food supply chains and cut off some of the distribution channels, such as restaurants. We saw donations from supermarkets to charities decreased. Farmers' markets were legally permitted to remain open, but many closed due to health concerns or lack of customers. Therefore, we saw at the local level an increased demand for fruit and vegetable box schemes, including with community-supported agricultures that directly connect local producers with local eaters. We saw some small local growers and farm gate stalls transition to online orders and home delivery, but many had to find compromises, and particularly around the types of technologies that existed to enable these new processes to occur. And finally, we've seen increased interest in growing food at home, even though this also highlighted lots of barriers to this practice, such as available land and knowledge. So I'll turn now to the key findings in our study so far, which is ongoing. The first problem was that of hunger, urban agriculture and food relief. So as I mentioned, panic buying and retail shortages led to a decline in food donations to charities and emergency food providers. Food charities also saw a shift in their consumer base and moved away from cooked meals to boxed and delivery schemes. So there were a few solutions to this. In Queensland, many producers at the local level who were already part of established civic food networks were able to very rapidly increase their production and to divert the food from retail and hospitality into box schemes. There were strong, diverse local networks, and this allowed producers to be very agile in responding to a new consumer base. Some urban growers continued to provide fresh produce directly for charities, which was already happening prior to COVID. This was really important because pressure on the food charities had increased substantially, and it was really impacted by those food shortages in the supermarket sector. One example is from Victoria, where over 100 food social enterprises have joined forces to create Moving Feast, an initiative to cook, grow and deliver meals to vulnerable people. They also sourced and planted over 700,000 seedlings across 5,000 square metres of new land. This initiative became particularly crucial during Victoria's second wave of infection, when we had around 3,000 residents of social housing placed under police-enforced hard lockdown without any notice. These food-based social enterprises, often operating within circular economies, delivered food to these residents who weren't permitted to leave their homes. So findings from our survey and interviews supported these arguments. So, for example, one farm gate actor in New South Wales explained how the demand had increased and the consumer was doing more to meet user. Again, in New South Wales, one small farm noted how demand from direct eaters had tripled, and this was related to the complete loss of restaurant business. In Queensland, small farmers noted that there'd been an increase in community interest in local food in terms of what, where, how, and they can access that food. In Victoria, there were wide-scale reports of businesses pivoting to online and having invested in advertising online and other new technological solutions. And then finally, one example from an urban farm in Brisbane that uses unused urban land to grow fresh produce and give this directly to food charities. They noted how they don't think there's enough food available to people in need, especially during COVID. For example, Meals on Wheels, one local charity, their budget had gone through the roof because of all the premiums being very high. But for this urban farm, they were giving the food away for free. The second problem relates to food justice, particularly for international students. During COVID-19, we saw that international students, temporary work visa holders, and refugees and asylum seekers in Australia experienced unprecedented food insecurity. This group make up a significant portion of casual employment in hospitality and retail, and these were who became disproportionately unemployed. They were not eligible for emergency government income supports, and at universities, they took some time to introduce support packages for students. And no solution has yet been found for income support for work visa holders or refugees and asylum seekers. So one solution that we've found about were reports of where students were food insecure, which led university-supported free meal schemes in collaboration with major charities to emerge. There are also widespread reports of minority communities and charities providing free meals on a weekly basis, mostly in capital cities in Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne. Restaurant-affiliated social enterprises have also mobilised to provide free meals and nutritious food boxes to asylum seekers and refugees in the community. Our survey responses also supported this. For example, one food charity in New South Wales identified how a new consumer base had emerged, that those seeking assistance had changed. More people from overseas, more people who were out of work and who were ineligible for government support. In Queensland and in Victoria, Food Bank and FareShare, two national food charities, identified how their new customers included tertiary students and people who had lost their jobs. They noted having to make an extra 30,000 meals a week in Victoria, and in Queensland, needing to double the number of meals that were cooked, and sending these directly to universities and to some Indigenous communities. And this was a major challenge for those charity networks. So in returning to the theoretical framework of resilience then, these findings point to a framework for transformation that considers 4 key aspects that I'd like to briefly discuss now. First, I argue that it is necessary to consider the resilience characteristics of food systems themselves. And these include the scale, so whether or not these are long or short food supply chains, the diversity, including the variety of actors, skills, ideas, or functions in a food system. The third part of this is responsiveness, so how quickly can the system respond? And this includes capacity for being flexible, efficient, and adaptable. And then the fourth aspect here is cohesion. So how connected, interacting, or embedded are those civic food networks? These 4 come together to really enhance the resilience of a food system. The next component I would argue is that of governance, which needs to become more adaptive and devolve responsibility for food system reform to the local level and improve the participation and collaboration of local food system actors. Third, my findings revealed that local food actors were involved in a deeper process of social learning that supports innovative visions for future food systems alongside transformative actions for institutional reform. And finally, I would argue that resilience's transformation requires a normative end goal, which food justice provides. Not only is this about ensuring food access for those who are most hungry, but it also draws attention to the need for processes that will build equity and agency for the most marginalised food system actors. Food justice also brings social and environmental justice together, which is crucial in regards to addressing climate action and zero hunger. So to conclude, what do these experiences tell us about the transformative potential of local food networks beyond the crisis? Firstly, we've seen in Brisbane and in Australia the shift to more self-sufficient local food provisioning systems. And this indicates local food really as being key innovation niches. We saw some urban growers work to mitigate the decline in food charity donations by growing fresh produce directly for charities. Others who were already involved in local food networks were able to rapidly divert food from retail and hospitality to box schemes. New civic networks and innovative uses of technology emerged to connect local growers to new consumers. And these were all indicative of the social learning needed for resilience. The second key point is around food charities. Australia still remains heavily dependent on food charities, especially for serving marginalised groups such as homeless or unemployed, and those who are not eligible for government support, such as international students. Some local groups and local food networks connect with charities, but at the same time, we have also seen an increased rights-based discourse around the government's responsibility to ensure food access. Finally, I've argued that local food networks tended to promote a diversity of food justice positions. Some of these were based on urban agriculture, some were based on reducing waste through circular economy. And these different approaches all come together to address inequality in food access, not just in availability and production. So this is a progressive vision for food system transformation that's needed to achieve both the types of food futures envisaged by local actors as well as the UN Global Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for sharing interesting case, and also we have a lot to learn from this policy. So now let's move from Australia to the USA. I'd like to welcome Professor Kim Jang-ho of Idaho University. If you're ready, please go ahead. Professor Kim. Professor Kim, it's difficult to hear you. Can you please check your microphone? When we hold online conferences, it's always see this kind of event. So he is adding some kind of interest to the conference. We don't hear from him. All right, so we're going to solve these technical issues quickly, and let's switch. Professor, if you're not ready, then shall we switch the turn? Okay, so if you don't mind, then we'd like to welcome Mr. Muktoki Akitsu from Kyoto University, and then as soon as we fix the problem, then we're going to switch to Professor Kim. Professor, Mr. Akitsu, are you ready? Please go ahead.
Dr. Akitsu Motoki, would you please start your presentation?
Okay, I can hear you. Okay, so now you can see the slide. Okay, now maybe okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, this is I'm Motoki Akitsu from the Kyoto University, Japan. So today it is my great honor to be invited to this conference today, and also it's a great opportunity for me to learn how COVID-19 affects the system of food and agriculture in the world, and how the system post-COVID-19 is aspired. So the move to my today's presentation. So the title is "Struggle to Build Food Policy in Kyoto: Experiences and the Future." Okay. Today's presentation is divided into the three parts. First, influences in food and agriculture by COVID-19, and the second, experiences in Kyoto to build food policy. In the last part, the current crisis beer springboard. The last part is a very short part. So first, influences in food and agriculture by COVID-19 in Japan. So I would like to the influence by two sides. In two sides. First side is the production side. So the overall influences are said as unpurchased foodstuff, because all of the schools were closed, so the foodstuff supplied for school lunch is no way to ship. So a lot of the foodstuff for the school lunch is the lost way to be bought. So the second influence is a very important one. The Japanese agriculture produce a very high quality products. So for example, the Wagyu beef or heirloom breeds of chicken, or very precious and high priced foods. So, but all of them are used in the restaurant, in the city or the town. So in the high-end restaurant, they want to use the high quality food stuff. But all restaurants were closed. So such kind of the high quality food stuff lost a way to be bought just for sale. So it's a very big problem for the producers, farmers, during the pandemic of the COVID-19. The next, consumption side. So the food retailers, such as the supermarkets and the owner retailers, they have a good happy time to sell the more food stuff to the consumers. So at the same time, the alternative online retailers for example, they are connecting producers with the consumers with the internet, so they can sell online without no contact in person. So that's why this kind of the retailers, they have more customers. The third one, the direct deals of close relationship by subscription. It is mentioned in the previous presentation. So like vegetable box, so of the organic products. So that kind of the activities are boomed in this period. So but the eating outside is of course falling down because most restaurants were closed. So the last one is the NGO activities for poverty alleviation. For example, the children canteen. It means a kind of community kitchen for the relatively poor children, run by the local initiatives. But they cannot hold this kind of activity during the pandemic the period. So, but about the government policies, I think it's very poor response. The promotion for food banks by supporting transportation costs or providing information on the websites about matching between the users. Users means some producers, between producers, the retailers, and consumers. But they provide only information. They don't have any subsidies for them to circulate that kind of the food stuff. So we can say that no direct support in food. Not only in the central government, but also the local government. But so they just treated only by the direct payment for every person, this kind of this amount of money. So about rural-urban relationships, so it's a very interesting the results. We can see the increase of prospective migrants to more local areas from Metropolitan Tokyo. So it's a very 22% in February, but 36% at the end of the April. So they are mostly the young generation are thinking about the going out of the metropolitan city. Okay, so the time is limited, so we're going to the next part. Experiments in Kyoto to build food policy. So as I said, as the previous presentation said, the Seoul signed this pact in the 2015, but at the same time, Kyoto City signed the same policy pact at Milan. But there are long distance between the Seoul and Kyoto, and the Seoul is some kind of a frontliner of the realizing just a food policy pact. But Kyoto is long distance behind the Seoul now. So that's why we are going to build kind of food policy pact in Kyoto and neighbor city. So this is the short history of our activities in Kyoto City. So we started this activity at 2016. We have held a seminar and a workshop and some meeting, some events, almost every year. And finally, we established the Kyoto Food Policy Council, but it is not embedded in the municipal system yet. So now, still, we are struggling to build a food policy and food policy council in Kyoto now. So this is a picture of some events and kickoff meeting. And this is part of my brochure we made to promote Kyoto Food Policy Council. So originally, of course, in Japanese, but we set 9 targets for activities. So the current target is first is organic school lunch, introducing organic school lunch, and the second is regeneration of urban agriculture, and the third one is now we are starting in the activities of the compost circulation. So, second, the activities in other city. So the Kamioka city is just adjacent to Kyoto City. The population size is much smaller than Kyoto City, and we are also having some interview or the stakeholder workshop and seminar and events in this small, relatively small city, and just pictures of that events and the seminar. And now current targets is it's a kind of the PR or propaganda. We're going to make Kamioka City an organic town. So we have found that mayor has strong interest in environmental issues, and we are going to introduce organic lunch at public kindergartens, and fourth one is organic farming. We're going to establish organic rice farming demonstrated in the new public park now. So this is the last part. So we have a lot of the programs in food and agriculture, not only in Kyoto but also Japan, all over Japan. The overall declination of agriculture activities, monopoly concentration of population, the only one big area of the population in around Tokyo, the southern endorsed the disparity among people in the neoliberal capitalism, and also we had insecurity in the industrialized food system. So we think using the lessons by COVID-19, the experience of remote work, or resetting daily ways of diet, or alternative approaches to food. So we are going to build. We would like to build a better future, like resurgence of small-scale farming, decentralization of population, a more egalitarian society based on food sovereignty and transparent and closer pathway from farm to fork. Okay. Maybe it passed more than 15 minutes. Okay. Thank you for your attention.
예, 감사합니다. Thank you very much. 교토대학의 아키츠 선생님이셨고요.
Professor Akitsu from Kyoto University, he mentioned that we like to share experiences together. And I wonder if Professor Kim is ready?
조금 더 시간이 필요하죠.
I guess Professor Kim needs more time. So I guess we have to, I don't know, I guess he had some technical issues. All right, now, after fixing his technical issues, yeah, the U.S. is far, right? So now let's go to our close area, Gyeonggi province. Now I'd like to welcome Mr. Kim. He is Mr. Kim Do-gil, co-chairperson of Gyeonggi-do Food Committee. Nice to meet you. I am from Gyeonggi-do, Gyeonggi Province. I am co-chairperson of Gyeonggi-do Food Committee. I am also a farmer. I am very honored to come to the Seoul Urban Food Policy Conference with the privileged and honored guests, and I feel proud to promote about the activities that we're working on in Gyeonggi Province. Today, I'd like to talk about Gyeonggi-do Food Committee and governance and cooperation. So the order of my presentation will be, I'd like to briefly introduce Gyeonggi-do Food Committee and the food policy and public-private partnership. And the third one will be about governance in Gyeonggi Province and GFC. And last but not least, I'd like to talk about private partnership in food policy. First of all, I'd like to start by introducing the committee. We're a little bit late, but in January 31st, 2019, we launched the committee. Chairperson Kil Chung-sun gathered experts, so I spent with her about 1 year before we launched the committee. This Gyeonggi-do committee is consisted with 30 people are from private sector and 20 people are from administrative people. Gyeonggi-do Food Committee, which is GFC, is a little bit different from other committee. One of the characteristics is that GFC has 3 chairpersons. One is the governor and superintendent of education, because he's in charge of school food, and private co-chairperson. 3 are making up the organization. It is because that it is important that public sector, as well as the education, as well as the private sector. In Gyeonggi Province, there are about 30 cities and counties. So some of the areas are mainly on the sector of production, and some are on consumption. So Gyeonggi-do has characteristics of urban and rural areas. So we are also 3 members representing from the agricultural sector, urban agriculture, and agricultural areas. As I mentioned earlier, in Gyeonggi-do, that there are many areas where foods are produced. So considering all these characteristics that we have involved, assembly people, so planning and finance committee, and education administration committee, agriculture and maritime administration committee, health and welfare committee, women, family and lifelong education committee are involved. And Gyeonggi-do assembly is in the coordination. And we have 5 people representing the assembly. There are more than 100 committees in Gyeonggi. However, you see, we have wonderful governance, including many related people. So this shows the complexity of food system. And the second one is about food policy and public-private partnership. As I mentioned earlier, there are 31 cities or counties in Gyeonggi province. After we launched this committee, that time each individual city didn't have a committee. So the private and public and assembly had to communicate well. And that time, food-related organizations were at the infant stage. So we held forums. And we actually initially thought about holding many forums. However, we had swine fever issues and also COVID-19. And unfortunately, we are unable to hold such planned forums. So in November 2020, we have only 1 month away, but we wish to have forums with cities or councils, counties which have food-related committees. We plan to form cooperative bodies with 17 cities or counties. And eventually this is going to be expanded, and they will serve as a channel for communication. And the cities who don't have interest in food systems yet, they will see this is an important policy. We heard cases of Kyoto and Australia, but we all know that the underprivileged people are not enjoying food security. There have been many projects going on to help underprivileged people. And this Gyeonggi-do province supported the public sector, and we supported 23 projects in 2019 with 200 million Korean won budget, and in 2020, 49 projects with 400 million won budget. So this purely the budget was provided by the province government. However, the projects were run by NGOs, which are formed with civilians. These projects from 2019 to 2020 have become more important due to the underprivileged people also need to get food security in COVID-19. Therefore, we have contemplated ways how we're going to expand our helping hands to more and diversified groups of people. And we are studying what areas to reach. And to get support from the government, it is important that we prove that certain organizations are entitled to the budget. However, some of the private sectors have failed to provide such verifications. And especially the organizations that are not entitled to legal entitlement have been getting support, and then we have opened this Gyeonggi-do online portal. So if this organization is formed with 5 people, and then they are working on food issues, and then they can support from the government. In Gyeonggi-do, we are emphasizing governance, and then one of the governance issue is participatory budgeting. In implementing food policies, there are many projects going on. However, agriculture and food frankly haven't been considered as important policies. And for agriculture and food, it is quite difficult to get additional budget. So the committee had contemplated ways how to hold festivals to get some more support from the government and also from the citizens. So we decided to include this as participatory budgeting. So as part of that, in 2021, we are holding 3 projects. And one of them is forming citizen organizations in each 31 city. So we are nurturing food experts. And another one is we'd like to enhance awareness and understanding about farming and the role in urban agriculture. And we're providing support for urban agriculture. This is also part of the issues that we are considering, including ecological issues and climate change issues. In addition to that, about 300 million Korean won has been allocated for Food Innovation Week, including conferences and festivals. GFC is formed with various stakeholders in administration. Sometimes it's difficult to get support. However, as more activities are going on, there will be chances for us to communicate better and also get administrative support. There are more than 13 million people residing in Gyeonggi province, so there must be different interests. So against this backdrop, we wanted to find the common ground that the citizens pay attention to food issues. So among various agendas, we wanted to enhance co-prosperity between urban and rural areas. So as you can see from this list, in 2019, we wanted to expand public school catering for co-growth of urban and agriculture areas. And also in 2020, we had discussion session about challenges in food security projects after COVID-19. Of course, discussions are important, but what should be pointed out here is that the public, private sectors have joined hands together, and we have come up with the solutions that are designed for Gyeonggi province. And fourth is private partnership. I think it's quite similar to Zero Hunger, shared by Queensland University case. There are SDG goals, and among them we picked number 2, the hunger, resolving hunger has been our one of the most important goals. Among 31 cities, 26 of them have Gyeonggi-do Council for Sustainable Development, and they're working actively. So for the hunger fighting, We have contemplated how this number 2 is related to other SDGs, and there are many projects and agendas that the Gyeonggi-do has to focus, and how these projects and the agendas can be connected with the number 2, and how these are connected to the historical issues and communicational issues and the community issues. So with these keeping in mind, we have put this number 2 SDG issue on the table by considering 17 other SDGs. So by working closely, that we have found close connectivity among SDG goals, and on top of that, we are providing support for underprivileged people to provide food security. And I'd like to further touch upon public-private partnership. In Gyeonggi province, administration and the public and private sector are holding joint conferences. Because food issues are not limited to consumers or producers, because now food issues are closely related and intertwined with many stakeholders. So the joint conferences have been held, and the first subject was about the future prospects of agricultural food products in the era of COVID-19. So we have been holding this various activities and movements. As it was mentioned by Kyoto, we are also holding some similar activities. As I mentioned, that the Gyeonggi-do is a complex area. Some of the areas are urban areas, and some are rural agricultural production area. In some of the parts of the Gyeonggi province, we are providing land for farming, where the big, large-scale farmers can cooperate with the citizens together. So by connecting them together, we have realized that the budget is not the budget can't solve all the problems. And we have realized that the private sector should play an important role. So our GFC has encouraged cooperation among stakeholders, but on top of that, we have emphasized the resilience. There must be a gap, the loophole the government cannot reach. So in these gaps, I believe that the private sector can play an important role. So it shows that we have to expand and boost the role of the private sector. So to support them, there should be administrative and budget support to them. GFC will continue to do our hard work, and we're going to hold hands together with the same-minded people about the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And Mr. Kim talked about the current status and policies of the Gyeonggi FPC. And again, we would like to try to connect to Professor Kim Jong-ho again.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. I'm so sorry. I mean,
Please
I'm so sorry. I mean, I've never been this kind of issue before, but yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. Good afternoon, everybody. It is my great pleasure. Let me put the my presentation material first. Okay. Yeah.
I didn't see anybody who has been so excited about his presentation. Please go ahead.
Okay. The presentation today might not be familiar with you, but Consumer Food Safety Program through Land-Grant University is a typical public food safety education system in the United States. The food safety system in the United States includes government regulatory programs, food and agriculture industry, academia, and consumers as end users. The four major federal agencies play a critical role to carry out regulatory activities such as regulations, inspection, and surveillance. These agencies are FDA, Food Safety Inspection Service of USDA, Environmental Protection Agency, National Marine Fisheries Service of Department of Commerce, and there are also state and local regulatory agencies too. Industry is the one who is most responsible for safe and quality food production. They must comply for federal food regulations and other responsibilities such as inspection, product recall, etc. Universities are actively involved in the food safety system in many ways. Especially academia provide various settings of food safety trainings. It is the consumer who has great responsibility because they purchase and handle the food product accordingly. There are two major food safety tools, Food Safety Modernization Act and the HACCP. First, Food Safety Modernization Act is the first major food safety law since 1930, which was passed through the U.S. Congress on January 4th, 2011. There are 7 rules, including preventive control for human and animal food and produce safety rules. This food safety law covers all domestic and imported food products, which are about 80% of all food supplies in the United States. FDA is responsible for this. Seafood and meat and poultry are regulated by USDA Food Safety Inspection Service through HACCP system, which is approximately 20% of food supplies. Food and agriculture industries comply for these food safety rules in order to ensure food safety. Consumers expect that they purchase and consume safe and high quality food. However, once consumers have food product in their hands, they are responsible for safe handling and proper cooking. So it is important to provide consumers with proper food safety information. Many reliable food safety information resources are offered by FDA, USDA, and official food safety website. And also county and state health-related agencies also provide many resources. And consumers can express their concerns and speak up on critical food safety issues. Land-Grant University, which is the main talking point today, play a key role in consumer food safety through research, extension, and education. Let's talk about what land-grant institution is. A land-grant university is a higher education institution designated by a state to receive land by the 1862 Memorial Act, which was initiated by President Abraham Lincoln. The institution could sell their land and raise funds in order to establish land-grant college or university. Early land-grant universities began to teach practical sciences, agriculture, military sciences, and engineering as a response to the Industrial Revolution and social class change. Most land-grant colleges became large public universities today, offering a full spectrum of educational opportunities. However, some land-grant colleges are private schools, including Cornell, MIT, and Tuskegee University in Alabama. As you can see here, this map, each state has at least one or more land-grant universities. For these reasons, land-grant universities play a major role in cooperative extension system. What is cooperative extension system? In 1914, USDA developed an extension services system in collaboration with nationwide land-grant universities as well as state and local government. These land-grant universities play a major role in cooperative extension system. The goal was to provide farmers across the country with advice from local experts regarding agriculture and farming. The program was a huge success, and today there are extension services in all 50 states and approximately 3,000 counties. Extension service participated in community events, hold lecture, courses, workshops, and answer gardening and farming questions from locals. Cooperative extension specialists and educators are mostly land-grant university faculty, and they provide science-based technology and information for the public. They engage the public to act and prepare people for a better life, provide rapid response in disasters like COVID-19, develop partnerships, and connect people. So in this kind of COVID-19 pandemic situation, they are providing scientific information on coronavirus such as infection route, how to prevent COVID-19, etc. Then engage the public to wear masks and wash their hands properly, and also provide recent update on COVID-19. Extension programs like food safety, health and nutrition, water and natural resources respond to the request from general consumers as possible as they could. At this point, I would like to give a brief summary on COVID-19 data in the United States right now. As of October 25th, 2020, the total number of coronavirus cases is 8.6 million. Over 224,000 people already dead, and this number shows the number of cases in last 7 days, and it is getting increased again. Now the number is over 472,000 cases in the last 7 days. And this graph, this table shows the top 5 states in number of cases in last 7 days, which are Texas, California, Wisconsin, Florida, Illinois. And this graph shows the daily trends of COVID-19 cases, and this graph shows the trends in number of deaths. Then how do we respond to COVID-19? First of all, we follow the university emergency policy. So we had to shut down our county extension offices. The services are continued through phone calls, emails, website, social media, and other means. We are trying to update COVID-19 information and work with other land-grant universities also. University extension systems have different food-related programs. First, food safety program provides consumer and small business sectors with the food and produce safety information and advices. Small farm and food system program supports the startup and small-scale agriculture businesses and promote safe local food systems. Other programs are farm and ranch management, horticulture, human health and nutrition, and natural resources. Our food safety program provides general COVID-19 information through website, social media, and extension publication. These information include any concern on coronavirus contamination on fruits and vegetables, how to prevent or protect people from COVID-19, recommendation for face covering, symptoms, what to do when infected, as well as different COVID-19 food safety resources. Okay, then what do we really do? As a matter of fact, CDC, FDA, USDA have not reported any evidence that suggests coronavirus can be transmitted by food or food packaging. However, food industry keep operating even more intensified food safety system and tools. For small farms and businesses and general consumers, it is always important to get rid of any potential risk related with the viral infection. So we teach them to follow good hygiene practices that prevent food-related viral infection. In addition, we have people cover their face, handle or prepare food properly, and avoid contact with sick individuals. There are challenges we work with when we work with general consumers. Their food safety knowledge levels so vary, and there are still some people who are not familiar with the computers. You cannot believe it though. And also in some areas, the internet connection is still not available. Sometimes we have to deal with people who cannot speak English, like Hispanic or Asian immigrant population. In the early state of pandemic, many people, they don't want, many people in the States, they did not want to cover their face. I believe it is some kind of cultural thing or something. So in order to solve these kind of problems, we work with the local volunteers to help us, collaborate with the local government agencies, and use traditional means to communicate with them. Okay, these pictures are the food safety extension activities when everything was normal. The right-hand side bottom is me at my food safety program booth during the local farmers market, and education of county extension educators, and then the photo of volunteers, and then training for Food Safety Modernization Act certified training. These are the pictures of them, those kind of activities. I think this is it for today. Again, I'm so sorry for your for this kind of inconvenience.
네.
And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
네, 김정은 교수님 감사합니다. 약간 좀 시간이
Thank you very much. I don't think we have enough time, but during your presentation that we're going to have two guests from Milan Urban Food Policy Pact, that I'd like to welcome Mr. Filippo from MUFPP.
Go ahead.
Hello everyone. It is my honor to bring the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact contribution in this conference. That is also the regional webinar for signatory city for East Asia and Pacific. The pact is a global commitment of mayors established in 2015 with the aim of working together for more sustainable and inclusive urban food system. The pact provides a very tangible platform for mayors and officers thanks to its framework for action that contains 37 recommended actions on the following aspects of the urban food system: governance, sustainable diets and nutrition, social and economic equity, food production, food supply and distribution, and food waste. Each city decided its priorities inside this framework and then worked together with other like-minded cities to meet similar goals. Here you can see some numbers. In 2020, we celebrate 5 years of activities with 210 signatory cities. We gather 5 times globally and 12 times at a regional level. Our governance is guaranteed by a steering committee of 13 cities, and Seoul is one of them. To date, we collected 261 good practices that are our common food policy knowledge. But how we animate this platform of cities and people? Firstly, by organizing global forum in which mayors, officers, international and regional stakeholders can meet and work together in a 3-day forum. You can see in the picture the gathering of Milan in 2015, the one at the FIO headquarters in Rome, then Valencia, Tel Aviv, and Montpellier. And we will meet again in Barcelona the next year. We meet also at a regional level to spur cooperation among cities with similar challenges. The second powerful tool that we put at the service of signatory cities is the Milan Pact Awards, a joint initiative of the Cariplo Foundation and the Milan municipality. Every year, we ask signatory cities to submit their most innovative practices connected to the Pact Framework for Action. Here you can see a map of the 2019 edition. Every year, an international jury of experts evaluates the practice and awards the most innovative one. In 4 editions, we gather 261 practices, as I mentioned, that are our living library of food policies that are at the basis of the city-to-city exchange. In 2020, we launched a special edition of the awards. In this time of uncertainty, we ask signatory cities to submit short videos that explain what kind of solution they have adopted to face and mitigate the pandemic from a food policy perspective. We saw at the opening the video contribution from Seoul, and thank you for sending it. So this is a picture of your region. To date, we have 13 signatory cities, but we know that at least 48 cities are active on urban food policies, thanks to our intelligence. We have gathered 9 good practices from China and South Korea, and for 2020, we have collected videos on possible solutions to face the emergency from Bandung, Daegu, Surakarta, Shanghai, and Seoul. For now, we haven't celebrated a regional forum in this region, but I hope we can fill this gap soon. So, to conclude, I invite the cities of this region to sign the pact and participate in our network to achieve together a more sustainable food system. Please stay tuned to our social media as we will share soon the videos on food policies and COVID collected from our cities. Let me thank Seoul for having organized this important moment of debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. 감사합니다. 예, 아까
Thank you for your presentation. So we,
국제적인 맥락들이 좀 있는 것 같아요.
thanks to the presentations, we can read the international trend. One thing that we can notice is about the Milan, the urban food policy fact, and the other is a UN's SDG, which stands for the Sustainable Development Goal. So Mr. Kim and Dr. Kia Smith share the same poster.
국제적인 어떤 협약이나 협조가
So when it comes to the international compact, I think that is all the more relevant and important. So I think today's event is really valuable. Related to the Milan urban food policy fact, we'd like to invite experts from Indonesia to share the cases. So now I'd like to invite Mr. Gingin Jinanjar, who is the head of Food and Agriculture Department. Would you please begin your presentation?
Okay, thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. What I respect Mrs. Yumi Pake, Head of Citizen Health Department, Mr. Filippo Gavazzeni, MUFPP International Relations Officer, as well as what I am proud of, all speakers from overseas. Good afternoon. Annyeonghaseyo. The honorable audience, I would like to say thank you for coming in my presentation. Before I present the whole materials, I would like to show to all of you the Bandung overview. Play the video, please.
A lot has changed over the last few months. And this is not something we ever imagined. If we realize, maybe this is a chance for the world to heal and breathe. We just have to wait patiently, until we return to get an amazing journey together. When this is all over, and when the time comes for travel, we will be here for you. And for your convenience, we always ensure to give the best services. You must be ready to seek the richness of amazing cultures. Ready to create wonderful memories with the lovable people. Ready to get precious moments that you'll never forget. We hope to see you here when the time is right. Stay home today, so you can travel tomorrow.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am Gingin Ginanjar, Head of Food and Agriculture Department. On behalf of the City Government of Bandung, I am pleased to describe government commitment after our mayor signed the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact in August 6, 2020. Also, we are here together with City Government of Bandung team. Also here, Parahyangan University. We declare that Bandung City want to participate and contribute to global problem related to urban food. Today, I would like to discuss our experiences of how integrated urban farming is implemented in our city. In the title, Bandung's Integrated Farming Practice for Sustainable Food in the COVID-19 pandemic era and beyond. Dear audience, Bandung is the capital of West Java Province with an area of 167.45 square kilometer, consists of 30 districts and 151 sub-districts. Its population is 2.5 million. Vision of Bandung City is excellent, comfortable, prosperous, and religious. As a metropolitan and service city, Bandung has almost no agriculture land and is not a food producer area. Almost 96% of food in the Bandung city come from outside the city area. Therefore, it makes food availability and sufficiency are vulnerable and insecure. It is also effect to price fluctuation, inflation, and prone to safe and healthy food quality. To reduce the level of food dependency, Bandung City must have self-sufficiency over food, starting from family to provide their own food through the use of home gardens for harnessing urban farming. Ladies and gentlemen, in early 2020, the world was hit by the COVID-19 outbreak, where the situation was also being felt in the city of Bandung. The COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted the food system, affecting the food security and nutrition of Bandung people, including food distribution and food retail sector. The situation of the COVID-19 pandemic has received a serious response from the city government. By considering disruption in urban food system and their implication for food security and nutrition, we are aware that Bandung City has a high population, which is very vulnerable to the COVID-19 pandemic. Adequate capacity to cope with this emergency is very important to minimize the spreading of the virus, which can cause morbidity and mortality. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we faced a number of challenges in terms of food availability, accessibility, and affordability, such as providing food during social restriction, supporting urban farming actors, and distributing food aid. The audiences and the youth I am proud of, reducing food dependency become a new spirit for Bandung City. Our home garden is carried out incentively by integrating cultivation system of vegetables, medicinal plants, fruit, nursery, fish and livestock, provider a nutritious and economical food processing of urban farming products. We use also the remaining of urban farming or household waste for composting, for growing plants, feeding fish and other livestock. In short, intensive urban farming management are interrelated in one site, one area, and become a complete economic cycle unit with zero waste. We call above food security strategy as Buruan Sae. Buruan is Sundanese, mean home gardens. The word Sae, Sundanese, apart from meaning good, orderly, or neat. Sae also used to abbreviate sehat, healthy, alami, natural, and economic. Sehat means it use self-management such as the use of organic fertilizer and natural pesticides with a friendly waste management. Alami means that home garden is treated naturally. Economics mean that the home garden is managed independently and the result can be used directly to reduce household expenses. Processed as nutrition food that play a role in stunting prevention, a source of nutrition for pregnant women and toddlers. Some can be sold to increase family economic income and contribute to control regional inflation. To date, we have 147 sites spreading at the whole sub-district of Bandung City that implemented the Buruan Sae model. Ladies and gentlemen, Buruan Sae has a real tangible benefit to the people of Bandung, such as the creation of market potential, increased income, and contribute to inflation. The impact of intangible benefit from Buruan Sae can also spread to education and tourism areas. For example, we can create an integrated urban farming area in Sekemala that we call Sain Farm, Sekemala Integrated Farming. We believe that in the future, Sain Farm will become a pride and characteristic of Bandung City. Buruan Sae is an important program, is a family food security that has significant contribution to the economic and environmental performance. The buruan saya has a real effect on the economic growth rate, life expectancy, human development, and happiness index, which quantitatively of those index are getting better. The audiences that I am proud of, buruan saya is an alternative to increase the frequency of interaction between communities. The community culture can be explored through buruan saya. Its social value become an intangible benefit such as community concern to provide healthy food and willingness to interact more intensely. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the urban farming community was eager to share with each other. Buruan saya impact makes urban farmers carry out the concept of philanthropy. Above interaction between communities will be very useful, not only for sustainable food, but also sustainable civilization. Buruan saya does not only about cultivation techniques, but also how to manage the community development, to contribute to Bandung Green City development, to support human life cycle of city dwellers from now to the future. The honorable audiences, buruan saya has some driving factor in its implementation, but we do not have it completely. We are open to collaborate with other parties, including all the Melanpec members. The cooperation is primarily aimed to multiply buruan saya's contribution to Bandung as smart city. We agree that smart city monitor through information and communication technology, ICT, and digital technology, and will increase the provision of urban services. But for buruan saya program, the use of ICT and digital technology is not implemented yet. As a result, the contribution level of buruan saya to Bandung Smart City is still unquantified. Appropriate technology of automation infrastructure and the digitalization for smallholder farmers are an important way to keep its affordability and sustainability. That's all our presentation. We are now still in COVID-19 global pandemic. Let's pray and asking Allah, the Almighty, to refrain us from this global pandemic and lift, Ya Allah, this virus away from human being of this planet Earth. Finally, we would like to show the video of buruan saya to be introduced widely. Then we look forward to welcoming you to our beautiful city, Bandung. Thank you for your attention. Play the video, please.
감사합니다. Thank you very much.
Seoul Farm adalah sebuah kawasan pertanian terpadu sekaligus tempat wisata di kaki Gunung Manglayang, Kota Bandung. Di sini, kita dapat berekreasi sambil belajar tentang budidaya pertanian, tanaman hidroponik, ternak domba, ayam, dan ikan seperti lele dan nila yang sudah menggunakan teknologi bioflok. Menikmati senja, bercengkrama bersama teman, sahabat, dan keluarga dalam hangatnya api unggun akan memberikan kenangan yang sangat indah. Seindah panorama Gunung Manglayang, hijaunya sawah Sekemala, dan hamparan kota Bandung yang menawan. Yuk, mampir ke Seoul Farm, Sekemala Integrated Farming.
Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
I'd like to go to Bandung. I think agriculture the rural areas are beautiful. I want to go to Australia and the US as well. So we started from Seoul and we have come around the whole globe, and we finally made a stop to Bandung. As we have shared good practices, that I realized that there are many things that we can learn from each other. I believe that there are questions that the speakers would like to ask each other, so we will have Q&A session. There have been many questions, but due to time constraint, one person is asked to ask one question, and then we will give time for answer. Professor Smith, Dr. Smith at Queensland University, she has a question to Bandung. Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, hello. Thank you very much for your presentation, Ben. And I had the pleasure of visiting Bandung a few years ago, and it was absolutely beautiful. So my question to you is during the pandemic, what was the impact of COVID-19 on the poorest or the most vulnerable people in the city? And was your Bandung integrated urban farming program able to meet the food security needs for that particular group?
반둥의 김긴 기난자르님.
Mr. Gingin Ginanjaru, can you just give us an answer?
Yeah, thank you. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Bandung is urban farming program still able to meet demand for fresh food. Yeah. One charity food of Bandung integrated urban farming program has quite significant and widespread impact, that is creating new habit on sharing product of urban farming between actors, increasing the frequency of interaction between communities, also preventing the spread of the virus, which can cause morbidity and mortality to a large extent in the urban population. Reducing disruption in the food system and its negative effect for Bandung city people. So the other question. No. Bandung integrated urban farming program still able to meet demand for fresh food, since these actors continue their hobbies on producing urban farming commodities. Food and Agriculture Department also continuously guide them to keep urban farming activities running well. That's all.
Thank you.
네, 감사합니다. 어제 김긴 기난자르님도 뭐 질문
Maybe
하나
Mr. Gingin
해주시죠.
Ginanjaru, do you have any questions?
Not yet.
오케이. 네, 감사합니다. 예.
Thank you very much.
자, 그러면
Then now I'd like to open the floor to Ms. Kiel. Do you have any question?
네, 저는 일본의
I'd like to ask a question to Professor Akitsu at Kyoto University.
아, 네. 그러니까 일단은 제가 발표 자료를 보고
I looked at your slides and I realized that we are living similar lives. You're based on your private sector participation, that you have built policy grounds. In terms of Japan, do you have any food policies implemented by the national government? As far as you know, please answer.
Okay, so thank you very much for the question. So actually we don't have any food policy in the central government or local government. In Japan, food policy means just the import and export of the food. So not cover all the fields related to the food. Just the focus on the among the food. So now we are going to establish and embed it in the actual policy, as a integrated the policy related to the food now. So we don't have any actual food policy now.
아마 그 질문한 거는
The reason why we are asking is that whether it's Seoul or any cities here in Korea, the local government is trying to set out and long-term food policies. And actually, maybe she just to take a big pride in the fact that we are working fast in that. Let me just give you some information for that. From 2017, and from 2017 to 2020, Seoul City started working to make a sustainable food system for the whole city of Seoul. And they have planned that, and before the last 1 year, they set out the food strategies up to 2030, and that is titled as Seoul's Food Strategy 2030. Under that strategy, it tried to turn the current food system into sustainable food system in the long term. And the program and the strategy itself are very important, but more important thing is that as we mentioned that we are having the Seoul Citizens Food Policy Council, which is largely operated by the citizens, and they are playing a key role to work together with the officials. So the private sector and the citizens and the public sector are working together to set out the strategies and operation plan. And under the big frame of the operation plan, they set out the very detailed yearly plans, which is executed by the government. So the important thing is we are building up that kind of governance system. And from the perspective, Seoul City, compared to the other cities and global countries around the world, we can share our exchanges together with you. Thank you for your answer. And Mr. and Professor Akito, do you have any specific question?
Okay, so I would like to ask the Professor Kim Jong-ho 선생님. so I would like to know about the sale of the farmers in U.S. There's something change in the sale of the farmers by the influence of this pandemic or not?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. As I briefly mentioned in my presentation, in the U.S., all government state agencies, including FDA, USDA, CDC, they do not consider the possibility that this coronavirus can be transmitted by food or food packaging. So basically, they consider it, non-foodborne disease. So I don't think that there is any particular change in handling and distributing practices. But farmers and processors, they may intensify their personal hygiene practices, which is very effective in reducing viral infection. That's what I know right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
So, Professor Kim, as you are holding the microphone already, can you please ask one question?
Okay, I have a very fundamental question to Chairwoman, Madam Kiel. In order to establish a sustainable food system, the strategy of yours seems that Seoul Metropolitan government leads the system in collaboration with the citizen organization, right? So I wonder if there is any collaboration plan with the central government agencies such as Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, and other institutions like Korea Food Research Institute or any other food experts in Korea, like the university professors, they talk too much, but any plan, any collaboration plan?
Well, first of all, Professor Kim Chul-gyu mentioned that the Seoul Food Commission is not only including Seoul citizens, but also the rural area producers and consumers and NGOs are all included. And also we have academia professors like Mr. Kim and also the experts in food. So we have 7 categories related to food safety. So we have also 7 divisions. For example, ecological and coexistence division is one of them. So there are various areas that we are covering. And in terms of national government, from the launch of President Moon's administration, that we have created a commission under the president. So in the committee, there is a division for about the agriculture products. So that division includes producers to consumers. And in this process, that we have involved stakeholders and all the related people. So they deal with strategies and plans of the nationwide. And from this week until the second week of November, that the government is going to listen to the opinions of the whole nation. So national government listens to the whole nation through the divisions, and in the local level, the Seoul, Gyeonggi province, this administration levels are contacting their citizens as well. So we are narrowing down to from the nation to local level. So we have different layers of communications, and the reasons that we have this kind of tree is because that we have strong national policies, and these based on strong policies that we are building frameworks based on this frameworks from in Seoul and Gyeonggi province. So as we had strong foundations of agricultural policies, based on that, we are building the local policies. Thank you very much for your detailed explanation. And Mr. Kim, if you have any questions?
네,
I'd like to ask Mr. Filippo Gavazzani. In 2015, the Milan Pact was launched, and since then that you have implemented various acts and movements. And after the spread of COVID-19, there have been many challenges, and that is the reality. And in this COVID-19, the cities involved in the pact and the international organizations and the national governments, they are working to cope with the COVID-19. And do you have any new solutions that you can share with us?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, the future is uncertain, and few things seems clear, unfortunately. The COVID-19 is a huge shock, also on the food system. So this is the time to rethink many parts of the food system. From what I learned in the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact, I think that the cooperation, and in this case the cooperation among cities, is the key to succeed. We should find innovative solutions, and we should work together on them. This is why institutions of all levels should facilitate this exchange and showcase of good practices. The Pact is giving its contribution to this momentum through the Milan Pact talks. So we will share soon on our channel and social media the insights from our cities with different and interesting approaches that are facing the change in the food system. Also, you will find on our website some key insights about the practices collected in 2019 in this report. Thank you.
예, 감사합니다. 혹시
Thank you. So, Mr. Filippo Gabozeno,
질문 하나만 더
do you have any question?
한 개 정도 질문.
You can ask a question if you have any to anyone.
Yeah, thank you. I have two questions. I'll start with the question. Just one. I will start with one. Yeah, okay. With the question to Bapak Yinggin, Kota Bandung. How does the municipality of Bandung selected the beneficiaries of the Buruan project? And are you considering to expand the project in partnership with the private sector? Terima kasih.
Sama-sama. Thank you, Mr. Filippo. Yes, we are willing to expand the program in the city. According to the current government rule, it is possible to implement public-private partnership for large-scale urban farming activities such as Saint Farm, particularly to build irrigation infrastructure, tourism infrastructure, and information and telecommunication infrastructure. The collaboration for small scale of Buruan Sai program that is implemented by communities in sub-district will be better to use corporate social responsibility or grant scheme. We hope our answer will help you to understand our Buruan Sai program and the Bandung municipality food policy. Thank you.
대단히 감사합니다.
Thank you for your answers. So far, we have exchanged our presentations and Q&A. Everything that we have delivered so far have been shared with the audience around the world, and we have received many questions from the audiences. I'd like to select one out of many to give an answer. And I have found one question. Against the COVID-19 situation, home delivery and online shopping has become more popular. And as a result, the plastic usages and the packages and the one-way use of materials have been largely consumed. So it is called as environment dilemma. How can we resolve this issue, and how can we make that included under the sustainable food system? Are there anyone who can give an answer or opinion to that? It is open discussion, so feel free to give us your opinion to that. And if you have any answer, then please turn on your microphone.
Anyone?
I am from Bandung. May I have a question?
Yeah.
Please go on.
Yeah. Thank you. I have two questions. First question to Australian. Sorry, I forgot the name. Yeah.
Do you have a question?
You have a question?
Yeah. Okay. I have two questions. One question for Australian.
Would you please ask only one question?
Okay.
Because of the time constraint.
One question for Seoul and Kyoto. Bandung has been struggling with technology implementation in relation to smart city. Since Seoul and Kyoto as well are having challenges as an urban city, how does technology play its role? Thank you.
A question is for me.
Yeah. Okay. I have one question for Australia also. May I?
Okay.
Just a little short.
Okay. So
yeah.
who are going to answer first?
Yeah. Yeah. How do you get involved with the citizen community in supporting your program? I mean, community is not only as a object but also as a subject. That's all.
To whom? To whom this question is? To Kia
or Australia?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I can respond to that question. Thank you very much. So how do I get involved with the citizens of the community in our program? Firstly, I could say that in Australia, the civil society has not been closely engaged or consulted around food policy making in Australia. We don't have a national food policy council that's citizen-led. We have very few regional city food policy councils. We actually don't really have any. We have the Melbourne Food Alliance, which is the closest we have to a food policy council in Australia. We have some initiatives in other small towns, but we're not quite there yet in terms of a citizen food policy council. So there hasn't been a lot of interaction with the citizens and the local government. However, I will say that there's very strong networking between local food initiatives within the fair food movement across Australia. And this is happening locally and regionally. So for example, I mentioned the Melbourne Food Alliance, but we have the Brisbane Fair Food Alliance and Sydney Right to Food Coalition. So we're seeing the growth of regional civil society food coalitions becoming much, much stronger in Australia. And this is where my research is focused, looking at the work of these regional and locally embedded food network actors. So in the research that I'm doing, it's very participatory and it's based on co-design of fair food future scenarios using civil society input to talk about the types of food futures that civil society initiatives want to see across the country. This will be in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne and Adelaide, potentially also Western Australia. And then the aim there is to actually bring those co-design scenarios together and present these at the national level within the framework of localizing the Sustainable Development Goals. So I think that there's a lot actually happening locally and regionally, and it's a case now of those actors. I think someone mentioned it before, how important it is for cities to be working together to actually collaborate around creating those different scenarios that we can then use as a launch pad for a national level dialogue around food policy councils. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Akizu?
Yes. So I have to answer that second question. So yes, I know the central government they promote the smart technology to agriculture enthusiastically now, but the urban agriculture is not a target by that government promotion, because in urban area that farming plot is very small, and so the central government wants to promote this kind of technology to the more a larger area, or introduce into the depopulated or the less favored area in the mountainous region or the like that. So the urban agriculture is not has attracted great interest from the government. In this case of the smart technology. Okay?
Okay. 감사합니다. 정말로 마지막 질문인데요.
This is actually really the last question. As we mentioned earlier, our participants on the online are asking this. In the COVID era, everybody is staying home. We are having our products being delivered, and we are using disposable packages all the time, and we're worried that the plastic is overused. Then how can we achieve sustainable food goal? What are the alternatives or solutions we can seek in this COVID-19? In the process of discussion also, we had this issue covered. Disposable containers are being used. The deliverable packages should be uniformed for us to recycle. That there are areas to consider. Then how we're going to collect this deliverable containers. If we'd like to use them again, how we're going to collect them and how we're going to wash them safely. Then we need to get support from the national government. Of course, first of all, we need to stop using disposable containers. So the second solution is reusable containers, and these are the areas that we're actively discussing. And in this process, that we can also generate some incomes or profits among related parties by recycling these containers. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think in Korea that's a really important issue. One last person, if you have last opinion, you're welcome to. Or if not, I guess not. So I'd like to wrap up the conference. We have had privilege to hear from best practices from the world. We are in the unprecedented common issue, which is the COVID-19, that we have heard the efforts made by each country, and especially for sustainable food policy. We have had a great opportunity to learn from each other. Of course, this is a crisis, but against this backdrop, the crisis can be a good opportunity for us to turn into a sustainable food, and I believe that your contributions have been wonderful. I'd like to thank all the helping hands and the stakeholders who have prepared for this conference. I'd like to thank all the ladies and gentlemen, the speakers, and the audiences from the world. I'd like to once again express my deepest thanks to you all. This wraps up the Seoul Urban Food Policy Conference 2020. Thank you very much for watching the conference. Have a great day and be healthy.